Chorda is the latest all-in-one instrument from Artiphon. You can play it like a piano, strum it like a guitar, even play beats like you're using a drum machine. And Chorda was really designed to give you a bunch of different ways to express yourself using the instrument. Chorda definitely has some similarities to Artiphon's Instrument 1, which I really like. Super fun to make music with Instrument 1. So I'm super excited to check Chorda out with you today. I want to put this guy through its paces and see what music I can create using ONLY Chorda. Chorda has over 100 built-in sounds that you can use. You can use it as a sampler, you can use it as a MIDI controller. My friends at Artiphon are not only today's video sponsor, but they've also been cool enough to let me give a Chorda away to one of you guys. So details for that giveaway will be later on in the video. But let's make some music using Chorda, then we'll break everything down. So hopefully you enjoyed the music. You can let me know in the comments below what you think, but let's do a quick Chorda overview before we break down how we used it to make all of that music. Like I mentioned earlier, Chorda definitely has some similarities to Instrument 1, the strummable bridge, for example, but it also has some similarities to Orba. Like Orba, you have kind of 4 main playing modes: drum, bass, chords, and lead. You have your 12 main pads, which will respond differently depending on how you play them. The bridge has 6 individual trigger points, so this is great for strumming or even plucking out individual notes. And then you have your A button, which is kind of your main menu button that helps you navigate and control Chorda's different features. Hold the A button and select a mode to cycle through the sound presets for that mode. You can see the bridge lights up with these green and red LEDs, and this is kind of like a back and forward or up and down arrow. So when you hold A and you press the octave pad, tap green to move up an octave, or tap red to move down an octave. Chorda also has features like a built-in looper, a song bank, so you can really use this as like an all-in-one standalone song idea generator creator device. And as you can see, it's also really tiny and portable, which is great for just throwing it in your bag. For a more in-depth Chorda features overview type of video, I will link to Artiphon's video in the description of this one, so check that out if you're interested. But let's break down the music, because there were some really cool and interesting ways that I used this to make the song that you heard earlier. So let's check it out. I want to go section by section and specifically show you how I used Chorda to create this piece of music. I used a bunch of the built-in sounds that come with Chorda and also did some stuff with MIDI as well. So let's just start with the drums. I used all Chorda internal sounds for the drum production, with the exception of the tambourine, just because I couldn't find like a good tambourine sound on Chorda itself. So the tambourine, I just played some MIDI. The drum production is pretty standard: kick, clap, hi-hat. Some snare comes in later on in what I'm calling the chorus section. I threw in this cowbell sample just because it was fun. Threw in this little wind chime sample. This riser I actually made from this sample. Take a listen. So I just filtered that and then added a little tape saturation, courtesy of Rabbit Tape from Safari Pedals. And then I just threw on a big, huge reverb from Valhalla Supermassive. We reverse it, add a little volume swell, and you get this. In terms of mixing, not really using a ton of plugins on these drums. I did beef up this kick sample quite a bit. We can take a listen to that. So that was the original sample. I just wanted to take out some of that high end so it was a little bit more of like a subby kick kind of feel. I threw on this new Camel Strip plugin from Safari Pedals. This is just kind of like an all-in-one channel strip. You've got EQ, effects, gate, compression. I'm really just using this for a little bit of compression. And then for just a little more saturation, I'm using Black Box here. All of my drums are going through this drum bus. We've got a little SSL compression. Knock is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. You see I'm adding some punch and some saturation and some sub, doing a little bit of soft clipping here as well. And then I'm adding just a little bit of reverb. You can see my mix knob here is at about 4.5%. And this is something that I like to do to just kind of glue the drums together. Kind of makes everything feel like it's sitting in a room without. Adds a little bit of vibe too. Moving up to the bass, this is a Jupiter 8 preset in Analog Lab. Used Chorda as a MIDI keyboard for this one. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And in this verse B section, I'm actually automating on the master bus here just a little bit of filter. So while we're on the subject of using Chorda as a MIDI keyboard, one of the interesting things that I discovered as I was making this is your 4 modes, drum, bass, chord, and lead, kind of turn into 4 creative ways to use this as a MIDI keyboard. Let me show you what I mean. So if you're in drum mode and you're trying to play keys, for example, so you can see the drum mode is kind of all over the keyboard. If we switch over to bass, your bass is in a major key, or whatever key that you have this set to. This would be the mode that you would want to use to kind of use this as a normal keyboard. If we go over to chord mode, this is kind of interesting. So the chord mode with that little bridge, you can kind of have some fun coming up with some different MIDI parts. I thought that was really cool. And then if you pop over to lead, lead is set to the pentatonic scale. And then your bridge, depending on what note you play, will give you a chord for that note. So there's our root note. We're in the key of C. But because you're only using the notes that are in the pentatonic scale, it adds a completely different flavor to your chord progressions. The other thing I found really cool about using Chorda as a MIDI controller is depending on how you interact with Chorda, it will adjust the sound that you're playing and the software instrument that you're playing. So for example, each pad has different trigger points on it as well. So as you slide up and down on the pads, that can control different parameters in your software instruments, for example. For the main chords, just layering a couple of Astra presets. And then I've got a keys preset with Astra as well. And then up top here in this section, moving on to the ARP parts, Chorda's built-in arpeggiator actually works really well. You can add it to any sound. All you have to do is press the A button, turn the arpeggiator on, then you go over to your BPM, you tap in your tempo, you can see the LED lights on the bridge will correspond to your tempo, and then you just start playing. You have your bottom, middle, and top zones on the pad will determine how fast the arpeggiator goes. And I just found a couple of different sounds inside of Chorda to use for a couple of different arpeggio parts. Let's take a listen. There's a little like glitchy hiccup in there that I actually just left in because I really liked it. Using some RC20, automating the one knob filter, and then I've got a little bit of Valhalla Vintage Verb on here as well. And then on the chorus, I just found a different sound and played along with the chords. This Glide 808 is one of the Chorda bass sounds. This little pre-chorus lead part. You could see all of that vibrato expression from using Chorda. Pretty cool. The chords in this chorus section were the only ones that really worked well with the triads that you get from using the chords mode on Chorda. So I took advantage of that with a couple of different parts here. And then the next part that I added threw on some RC20 and an EQ, as well as shaper box, just to kind of give it a sidechain effect. Just something nice to add a little bit of movement into the background of the track. I played in some MIDI string falls, and I tried to make some Chorda strings work with those. And I liked the way they sounded. I just didn't end up using them in the final mix. But all of those string parts were using the chords mode on Chorda. I found each of these different playing modes really useful for different moments in the song. And I also really liked using this as a MIDI controller. The 4 different modes add kind of like a new creative layer to working with MIDI. So I thought that was really cool. Just as like an all-in-one, throw it in your bag kind of device, Chorda is really useful. As you saw, there's a lot of different ways that you can use Chorda. And overall, it's just fun to make music with. So all you have to do to enter the Chorda giveaway is just make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave a like and a comment on this video. I will pick a winner. I will get in touch with you directly, so beware of any scammers in the comments, and best of luck. But that wraps up today's video, my friends. I'm Patrick. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.